Sometimes the deepest wounds are inflicted by those who claim to love us the most, I whispered, staring at the Christmas tree lights reflecting in my wine glass. But today, I'll show them what true success looks like. The clock struck 6 on that fateful Christmas evening in 2020, and I, Jennifer, was about to announce my divorce to my family. Little did I know that this moment would become the catalyst for a chain of events that would completely transform my life over the next 5 years. I took another sip of wine, savoring its bitter notes as I watched my younger sister Cassidy holding court in our parents' living room. She was regaling our relatives with stories about her latest promotion, her perfect relationship, and her bright future. At 31, she was everything our parents had ever wanted, or so they thought. The familiar scent of my mother's roast turkey wafted from the kitchen, mixing with the pine fragrance of the Christmas tree. It was a smell that should have brought comfort, but instead, it only served to heighten my anxiety. Every Christmas had been like this for as long as I could remember, a perfectly orchestrated performance of familial happiness, with Cassidy always in the spotlight. I glanced around the room, taking in the expensive decorations, the family photos on the walls, most featuring Cassidy's beaming face, with me relegated to the background or absent altogether. The house hadn't changed much since my childhood, and neither had the dynamics within these walls. Jennifer, my mother's sharp voice cut through my thoughts. Are you planning to sulk in the corner all evening? Your sister has some wonderful news to share. I smiled, the kind of smile that never quite reaches the eyes. At 39, I had learned to wear these masks perfectly. CEO of a major tech company by day, invisible daughter by night. The irony wasn't lost on me. My mind drifted back to a similar Christmas gathering 15 years ago, when I had tried to share the news of my first major promotion. My parents had listened with polite disinterest, only to immediately turn their attention to Cassidy's college acceptance letter. It was a pattern that had repeated itself throughout our lives, my achievements overshadowed by whatever milestone Cassidy happened to be celebrating. Actually, I said, setting down my glass with deliberate slowness, I have some news of my own to share. The room fell silent. My father lowered his newspaper, a rare occurrence that would have amused me under different circumstances. Cassidy's perfectly manicured eyebrows arched in barely concealed disdain. Mark and I are getting divorced. The silence that followed was deafening. I watched as emotions played across their faces, shock, disappointment, and something else that looked disturbingly like satisfaction. My mother was the first to speak, her words dripping with the familiar mix of criticism and condescension that had colored my entire childhood. Well, I can't say I'm surprised. You've always been different, Jennifer. Always putting your career before family. What did you expect? I felt the old familiar pain rise in my chest, but this time, something else rose with it. A strange sense of liberation, as if the last chains holding me to their expectations were finally breaking. Different. I repeated, my voice steady. Yes, I suppose I am. And after tonight, things are going to be very different indeed. The Christmas tree lights cast shifting shadows on the wallpaper, a pattern of light and dark that seemed to mirror the turbulent emotions in the room. Aunt Margaret, always quick to offer unsolicited advice, cleared her throat. Dear, perhaps if you had focused more on your marriage instead of working such long hours. Yes, Cassidy chimed in, her voice honey-sweet but laced with malice. Not everyone can be as lucky as I am with Bradley. But then again, some people just aren't cut out for balancing work and relationships. Bradley. Her perfect fiancé whom she'd met at her mid-level corporate job. If only they knew that my long hours had built a company worth hundreds of millions. If only they could see the respect in my employees' eyes when I walked through my office. But here, in this house, I was still just Jennifer, the difficult daughter who couldn't quite get it right. I couldn't have known then just how prophetic those words would prove to be. I couldn't have predicted that 5 years later, my sister would be standing in my office, demanding money for her wedding. I couldn't have imagined that my parents would attempt to take control of my company, or that their perfect daughter would reveal herself to be something far more dangerous than just a spoiled child. The memory of my last conversation with Mark flashed through my mind. Your family's right, he had said during our final argument. You're impossible to love. Everything's always about your work, your success, your independence. His words had hurt then, but now they felt like a badge of honor. Yes, I was independent. Yes, I was successful. And no, I wouldn't apologize for it anymore. You know what your problem is, Jennifer? Cassidy's voice cut through my thoughts again, sweet as honey but laced with venom. You think you're better than us. But look at you, alone at Christmas, with nothing but your precious career to keep you warm. If only she knew. If only any of them knew what I had built, what I had become. But they would learn, all of them. In time, they would learn exactly who they had underestimated. I stood up, smoothing down my dress, a simple black number that cost more than Cassidy's monthly salary, not that any of them could tell. You're right about one thing, little sister. I am different. And it's about time I stopped apologizing for that. The tree lights flickered, casting dancing shadows on the wall. In that moment, I made a decision that would set everything in motion. A decision that would eventually force them all to face the truth about themselves, about me, and about the true meaning of family. My father finally spoke, his voice gruff with disappointment. Jennifer, you've always been difficult. Even as a child, you never quite fit in. Always questioning, always challenging. Look where it's gotten you. I almost laughed at the irony. Yes, look where it had gotten me indeed. But they couldn't see it, not yet. They were still living in their carefully constructed reality where Cassidy was the golden child and I was the family disappointment. Shall we eat? My mother asked, her voice brittle with forced normality. Yes, I replied, my smile now genuine for the first time that evening. Let's eat. After all, this might be our last family dinner for a very long time. As we moved toward the dining room, I caught my reflection in the hallway mirror. I saw a woman who had finally stopped seeking approval from those who would never give it. A woman who had built an empire while her family was busy undermining her every achievement. A woman who was about to show them all exactly what they had missed. None of them understood the weight of those words. Not yet. But they would. Oh, they would. The dining room table was set with my mother's best china, the silverware gleaming under the chandelier light. Everything perfect, everything proper, everything a lie. As we took our seats, I couldn't help but wonder how different this same scene would be 5 years from now. How many of these smiling faces would still be part of my life once the truth came out? But that's getting ahead of the story. Let me take you back to that Christmas night, where it all began to unravel. Where I finally started to understand that sometimes, the family you're born into isn't the family you're meant to keep. 5 years passed like a whirlwind. June 2025 found me in my corner office, reviewing quarterly reports when my assistant Daniel knocked on the door. His usually composed face showed a hint of concern. Ms. Morrison, your sister is online too. She's called 3 times this morning. I froze. Cassidy hadn't contacted me since that Christmas night, except for the occasional passive-aggressive social media comment. Put her through, I said, bracing myself. Jennifer. Cassidy's voice dripped with artificial sweetness. I need to tell you something. Bradley and I broke up last month. That was unexpected. The last I'd heard, they were still the perfect couple. I'm sorry to hear that, I said carefully. Oh, don't be, she continued, her tone brightening. Because I've met someone even better. We're getting married. He proposed last week, and we're having an engagement party this Friday at Mom and Dad's. My stomach tightened. That seems quick. When you know, she gushed. Oh, and I have more amazing news. I've been promoted to senior account manager. I could practically hear her smirk through the phone. Don't worry, I won't make you feel bad about your career choices. Though it must be hard, watching your little sister climb the corporate ladder while you're still, what are you doing these days anyway? If she only knew. My company had just closed a $200 million deal, but I kept that information close to my chest. I'll be there, I said simply. Perfect. Everyone's dying to meet my new fiancé. He's so successful, Jennifer. Not like Bradley, who turned out to be such a disappointment. This one really understands ambition. Friday evening arrived too quickly. I chose my outfit carefully, a black Chanel dress that screamed quiet money. As I pulled up to my parents' house, I noticed several luxury cars parked outside, including a familiar one that made my heart skip a beat. My mother opened the door, her eyes sweeping over me critically. Jennifer. You came. Try not to cause any drama tonight. Cassidy deserves her moment. The living room was packed with family and friends, most of whom I hadn't seen in years. Cassidy held court in the center, wearing a gold sequin dress that caught every light. She was in the middle of what seemed to be her favorite story. And then the CEO himself invited me to his private box at the opera. He says I'm on the fast track to executive level. I sipped my wine, watching the performance. Then the front door opened, and my world tilted on its axis. Daniel, my trusted executive assistant of 3 years, walked in. Cassidy squealed with delight, rushing to embrace him. Everyone, she announced triumphantly. Meet my fiancé. The wine glass nearly slipped from my fingers. Daniel's eyes met mine across the room, widening in recognition. Hi, boss, he said automatically. The room went silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Boss? Cassidy's voice rose an octave. What do you mean, boss? Daniel looked confused. Your sister is the CEO of Skyhaven Technologies. I'm her executive assistant. The silence deepened. My parents stood frozen, their faces a study in shock. Cassidy's complexion went from flushed to pale to red in rapid succession. You're lying, she whispered. Jennifer can't be, she's nothing. She's no one. I set my glass down carefully. Actually, Cassidy, I built Skyhaven from the ground up. We're now valued at over $850 million. The room erupted in chaos. Relatives who had ignored me all evening suddenly tried to catch my eye. My father's newspaper dropped to the floor. My mother grabbed the nearest chair for support. But Cassidy, dear, perfect Cassidy, wasn't finished. Her eyes took on a dangerous gleam. So this is why Bradley left me? Because you told him about your precious company? Did you offer him a job too? Don't be ridiculous, I said calmly. I had no idea you were dating Daniel until tonight. Liar, she shrieked. You've always been jealous of me. First you ruined things with Bradley, and now you're trying to steal Daniel too. She lunged forward, her manicured nails reaching for my face. I stepped back, but not before she managed to scratch my cheek. The room gasped collectively. Cassidy. Daniel grabbed her arm. Stop this. Don't touch me, she spun around, her voice rising hysterically. You're probably sleeping with her, aren't you? That's why she hired you. My mother finally found her voice. Jennifer, how dare you cause such a scene at your sister's engagement party? I touched my cheek, feeling the sting. I didn't cause anything, Mother. Your perfect daughter just assaulted me in front of 20 witnesses. Because you provoked her, my father thundered. Always trying to overshadow her special moments. I laughed then, a genuine laugh that seemed to unsettle them more than any angry response would have. You're right. I should go. Congratulations on your promotion, Cassidy. And your engagement. As I walked toward the door, Cassidy's voice stopped me. You think you're so special with your big company and your millions? Well, guess what? Now that I know about your money, things are going to change. Family helps family, right, Mom? I turned back, meeting her gaze. Be careful what you wish for, little sister. You might not like what comes next. The following Monday, Daniel was waiting in my office, looking miserable. Jennifer, I'm so sorry. I had no idea Cassidy was your sister until I saw you there. It's not your fault, I assured him. But you should know, Cassidy can be unstable when she doesn't get her way. He ran a hand through his hair. I'm starting to realize that. Last night, she demanded I quit my job. Said I had to choose between her and you. And I told her she was being irrational. She didn't take it well. Before I could respond, my office door burst open. Cassidy stormed in, her face contorted with rage. You poisoned him against me. Just like you did with Bradley. Ms. Morrison, my receptionist appeared, flustered. I'm so sorry, she just pushed past me. It's fine, Carol, I said calmly. Call security. Don't you dare. Cassidy slammed her hands on my desk. I want $3 million for my wedding. It's nothing to you with your precious company. I raised an eyebrow. No. No, she laughed hysterically. You don't get to say no. I'm your sister. I'll tell everyone how you stole both Bradley and Daniel from me. How you've always tried to ruin my life. Cassidy, Daniel's voice was firm. Stop this. You're embarrassing yourself. She whirled on him. Shut up. I should have known you'd take her side. First Bradley, now you. Men always prefer successful women, don't they? Well, guess what? Mom and Dad are on my side. They always have been, always will be. Security arrived, and I nodded toward Cassidy. Please escort my sister out. And add her to the restricted list. As they led her away, her screams echoed down the hallway. You'll regret this, Jennifer. You think you're so perfect in your glass tower? Just wait. Just wait and see what happens next. Daniel looked shaken. I need to end this engagement. Yes, I agreed. You do. What I didn't know then was that Cassidy's threats weren't empty. She was about to launch a campaign of harassment that would force me to choose between my family ties and my own sanity. But this time, I was ready for war. This time, I wouldn't back down. The next day, my parents showed up unannounced at my office. My mother's face was streaked with tears, while my father looked grimmer than usual. How dare you humiliate your sister like this, he demanded. First Bradley, now Daniel, after all we've done for you. I leaned back in my chair. All you've done for me? Please, enlighten me. What exactly have you done except criticize and diminish every achievement I've ever had? We gave you life, my mother wailed. We raised you, fed you, clothed you. The bare minimum required by law, I noted dryly. Is that why you're here? To remind me of my filial obligations. We're here because you owe us, my father said bluntly. Your sister deserves a beautiful wedding. $3 million is nothing to someone like you. Ah, I smiled. So now I'm someone like me. Not the disappointment? Not the difficult child. You've always been selfish, my mother spat. Always thinking only of yourself. Well, now you can make it right. Give your sister the wedding she deserves. I stood up slowly. Let me be very clear. I owe you nothing. I built this company while you were busy telling me I would never amount to anything. I succeeded despite you, not because of you. And I will not give Cassidy a single penny. Then you leave us no choice, my father's voice turned cold. We'll tell everyone how you stole both your sister's fiancés. How you used your position to seduce them. How you've always been jealous of Cassidy's happiness. I pressed a button on my desk phone. Carol, please send in Lisa from legal. A moment later, my head of legal affairs entered, tablet in hand. You wanted to see me? Yes, I smiled at my parents. Please explain to my parents the consequences of defamation and harassment. The next hour was a blur of legal terms and thinly veiled threats. By the time my parents left, they looked considerably less confident. But I knew this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. What I didn't expect was the text I received that evening from an unknown number. Watch your back, big sister. You have no idea what I'm capable of. You didn't just take Daniel from me, you destroyed everything I had with Bradley too. This time, you'll pay. The game was on, and this time, I intended to win. I should have known the calm wouldn't last. 2 weeks after the office confrontation, I noticed a black SUV following my car home. The next day, photos of me leaving my apartment appeared on Cassidy's social media with ominous captions, "Success built on betrayal won't last," and "Time to expose the truth." My security team confirmed my suspicions. Cassidy had hired a private investigator. But she wasn't just gathering information, she was trying to terrorize me. Late-night calls from blocked numbers. Emails containing veiled threats. Even my elderly neighbors reported a woman matching her description asking invasive questions about my personal life. "Your sister's escalating," Lisa warned during our emergency meeting. "These aren't just emotional outbursts anymore. This is calculated harassment." I nodded, studying the stack of evidence she'd compiled. "What's our next move?" "We could file for a restraining order," she suggested. "But given your family's connections, they might try to spin it against you." Before Lisa could elaborate, my phone buzzed with a text from Daniel. "Check your email now." The subject line made my blood run cold: "Board meeting emergency, vote of no confidence." The email was from my father's law firm, representing a group of minority shareholders. They were calling for an emergency board meeting to discuss my ethical violations and abuse of power. The evidence? Doctored emails suggesting I had systematically sabotaged Cassidy's career and used company resources for personal vendettas. "They can't be serious," Lisa muttered, reading over my shoulder. "These emails are clearly fabricated." "My father's firm wouldn't move without solid backing," I said grimly. "Someone's been planning this for a while." A quick investigation revealed the truth: Cassidy had been busy during those 5 years of silence. She'd cultivated relationships with several board members, playing the role of the wronged sister. More disturbingly, she'd convinced Bradley, her ex-fiancé, to provide evidence of my supposed manipulation. "Bradley claims you offered him a high-level position to leave Cassidy," Daniel reported, his face pale. "He has emails." "Forged emails," I corrected. "But timing is everything. They're trying to create doubt before our major acquisition next month." The next few days were a blur of emergency meetings and legal consultations. But Cassidy wasn't done. She appeared on a local business podcast, tearfully describing how her sociopathic sister had systematically destroyed her life. "She couldn't stand that I was happy," she sobbed to the interviewer. "First, she ruined my relationship with Bradley by offering him a job he couldn't refuse. Then, when that didn't destroy me completely, she seduced my new fiancé, her own employee." The story went viral in our industry circles. #ToxicCEO started trending locally. Our stock took a minor hit. But Cassidy had made a crucial mistake. In her eagerness to destroy me, she'd forgotten about Daniel's integrity and his meticulous record-keeping. "I have everything," he announced, dropping a thick folder on my desk. "Every conversation, every email, every interaction with Cassidy. Including her attempts to pressure me into corporate espionage after we started dating." My eyes widened. "Corporate espionage?" He nodded grimly. "She wanted insider information about Skyhaven's acquisition plans. Said it was her right as your sister to profit from your success." "When did this start?" "The day after our first date." She wasn't subtle about it. Even suggested we could retire early if I helped her access certain files. I studied him carefully. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" "I wanted to handle it myself. Thought I could reason with her." He laughed bitterly. "I was wrong." That evening, as I was leaving the office, I found my mother waiting by my car. "You have to stop this," she pleaded. "Cassidy's falling apart. She's talking about exposing family secrets." "What family secrets, Mother?" "The fact that you and Dad emotionally abused me for years? Or something worse?" She flinched. "There are things you don't know about your father's early business dealings. Things that could hurt a lot of people." "Ah," I smiled coldly. "Now we get to the real reason for your visit. You're not worried about Cassidy. You're worried about yourselves. We could help you with the board," she offered desperately. "Your father has influence. The same influence he's using to try to oust me?" I stepped closer. "Let me be clear, I have evidence of Cassidy's attempts at corporate espionage. If this goes any further, I won't hesitate to use it." "You would send your own sister to jail?" "You taught me well, Mother. Family means nothing compared to success, remember?" The next morning, I received an anonymous email containing documents from my father's old law practice. Apparently, Cassidy's threats had spooked our mother enough to take action, just not in the way she'd intended. The documents revealed a pattern of ethical violations and covered up malpractice. Nothing illegal enough for prosecution, but more than enough to destroy my father's reputation in the legal community. Your mother sent these, Lisa concluded after reviewing them. She's trying to give you leverage. No, I corrected. She's trying to save herself. She knows Cassidy's unstable enough to expose everything. That afternoon, my father called. Name your price, he said without preamble. Excuse me. To keep quiet about those files. To protect your sister from prosecution. Name your price. I laughed. You still don't get it, do you? This isn't about money. It never was. Then what do you want? I want you to remember this moment, I said softly. When you finally realized that your perfect daughter was willing to commit federal crimes, while your disappointing one built an empire. I want you to live with that knowledge for the rest of your lives. The silence on the other end was deafening. The board meeting is in 2 days, I continued. Here's what's going to happen, you'll withdraw the motion. Cassidy will retract her statements publicly. And you and mother will never contact me again. Or I'll send these files to every law firm in the state. Then I'll press charges against Cassidy for corporate espionage, harassment, and defamation. Your choice. He hung up without responding. An hour later, my lawyer received notice that the board meeting was cancelled. The next day, Cassidy posted a lengthy apology on social media, attributing her previous statements to emotional distress and misunderstandings. The local business journal ran a retraction. Case closed. Or so I thought. That night, the security alarm at my office went off. Security cameras caught Cassidy trying to break in, a USB drive in her hand. When the guard stopped her, she was incoherent, ranting about hidden files and family justice. She's had some kind of breakdown, Daniel reported after speaking with the police. They're keeping her under observation. I watched through the one-way glass as my sister, still in her designer dress, paced her hospital room, muttering about betrayal and revenge. Our parents huddled in the corner, looking old and defeated. Will you press charges? Daniel asked quietly. I thought about the frightened little girl who had once followed me around, begging for attention. About the young woman so desperate for approval that she'd destroy anything in her path. No, I decided. She's lost everything, her job, her reputation, her freedom. That's punishment enough. And your parents? I turned away from the window. I meant what I said. We're done. Let them live with the golden child they created. As I walked out of the hospital, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I expected another threat, but instead found a message from my mother. You were always stronger than we knew. I'm sorry we couldn't see it. I deleted the message without responding. Some wounds don't need closure. Sometimes, victory is enough. 6 months after Cassidy's breakdown, I sat in my expanded corner office, reviewing the morning news. The headline caught my eye: prominent attorney disbarred, ethics violations span decades. My father's downfall had been swift and complete. Once his former clients learned of his ethical breaches, they'd turned on him en masse. The prestigious law firm he'd built over 30 years collapsed in weeks. His partners abandoned him, his clients sued him, and his reputation was irreparably destroyed. Ms. Morrison, my new assistant Rebecca buzzed. Mr. Turner is here to see you. Mike Turner. The former Special Forces officer who now headed my security team had become much more than a colleague over the past months. Did you see the news? He asked, entering my office. About my father? Yes. I smiled, feeling no remorse. Karma works in mysterious ways. Your mother's real estate license was also revoked, he added, sitting on the edge of my desk. Apparently, some anonymous source revealed her history of fraudulent property valuations. I raised an eyebrow. Anonymous? He grinned. Lisa's very good at what she does. The past months had revealed the full extent of my parents' corruption. Their perfect facade had hidden years of ethical violations, tax evasion, and fraudulent business practices. Now, they'd lost everything: their careers, their savings, their social standing. Last I heard, they'd been forced to sell their house and move to a small apartment in a less desirable neighborhood. The same neighborhood they'd once mocked me for living in when I first started my company. "And Cassidy?" Mike asked carefully. "Still in the private facility," I replied. "Her doctors say her narcissistic breakdown was years in the making. All that pressure to be perfect, to outshine everyone, it finally broke her. The facility wasn't cheap, but I'd arranged to cover the costs, not out of familial duty, but as a final demonstration of who truly held the power now." Speaking of power, Mike smiled, "The acquisition's complete. Skyhaven's now valued at over $2 billion. I stood, walking to the floor-to-ceiling windows. The city stretched out below me, gleaming in the morning sun. My empire, built despite every obstacle my family had thrown in my path. "Daniel's wedding is next week," I mentioned. "He and Ava seem very happy. Are you ready to see everyone?" I turned, meeting his warm gaze. "More than ready. It's time to show them what real success looks like." The wedding was held in an elegant garden venue. I'd helped Daniel plan it, ensuring everything was perfect for him and Ava. As I sat in the front row, I couldn't help but contrast this with the gaudy, overpriced ceremony Cassidy had demanded. My parents weren't invited, of course. They'd tried to contact Daniel multiple times, attempting to apologize, to explain, to manipulate. He'd blocked their numbers. Recent photos showed them looking aged and defeated. My mother had lost her polished shine, now shopping at discount stores instead of designer boutiques. My father's confident stride had become a shuffle, his arrogance replaced by bitter resignation. During the reception, Lisa approached with a tablet. "Thought you'd want to see this," she smirked. Cassidy's doctor approved her for supervised social media access. She's been posting about her journey of self-discovery. I glanced at the screen. My sister's once perfect appearance had deteriorated. The expensive highlights were gone, replaced by dull, gray-streaked hair. Her designer clothes exchanged for facility-approved attire. Her posts were rambling manifestos about family loyalty and karmic justice. "Her doctors say she'll need long-term care," Lisa added. The narcissistic break was complete. I handed back the tablet, feeling no satisfaction in my sister's descent into madness. She'd done this to herself, choosing obsession over growth, destruction over development. "Jennifer?" Mike's voice drew my attention. He stood by the dance floor, handsome in his tuxedo, hand extended in invitation. As we danced, I caught our reflection in the venue's mirrors. I saw a strong, successful woman who had finally stopped seeking approval from those who never deserved her. I saw a man who valued that strength instead of fearing it. "Move in with me," he said suddenly. I looked up, surprised. "What?" "Move in with me," he repeated. "Or I'll move in with you. I don't care which. I just want to wake up with you every morning." The old Jennifer might have hesitated, might have worried about maintaining her independence. But I wasn't that person anymore. "Yes," I said simply. Later that night, in my penthouse apartment, I stood by the windows while Mike poured us champagne. The city lights sparkled below, a testament to all I'd built. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. My mother's latest burner phone. "Please, Jennifer. We've lost everything. We need help. We're your family." I showed the message to Mike, who wrapped his arms around me. "What are you going to do?" I deleted the message, blocked the number, and turned in his embrace. "They're not my family. You are. Daniel and Ava are. Lisa is. Family is what we choose, not what we're born into." He kissed me softly. "Speaking of family, how do you feel about kids?" I smiled, thinking of the future we could build. A future free from toxic relationships and manipulative games. A future where any children we might have would be loved for who they were, not what they achieved. "I feel like we could create something beautiful," I answered. "Something real." 1 year later, I stood in my expanded office, now taking up the entire top floor of the Skyhaven building. My wedding ring caught the light as I reviewed the latest acquisition proposals. Mike's security firm had merged with Skyhaven, creating an unbeatable technology and security powerhouse. Daniel and Ava had just announced their first pregnancy. Lisa had made partner at her law firm. Life was moving forward, growing richer with genuine relationships and real success. My parents had been reduced to living on Social Security, their assets seized, their reputations destroyed. Cassidy remained in the facility, her doctors now recommending permanent residential care. But I felt no guilt, no remorse. They had made their choices, just as I had made mine. They had chosen manipulation and deceit, while I had chosen growth and authenticity. Standing at my office windows, one hand resting on my slightly swollen belly, our first child, due in spring, I finally understood the truth about power. It wasn't about destroying others to elevate yourself. It was about building something genuine, something lasting. I was Jennifer, CEO of a billion-dollar company, wife to a man who celebrated my strength, future mother to a child who would never know the pain of conditional love. I had won. Not just the battle with my family, but the war with my own past. And my victory was complete.